Good afternoon. We're here today in Boort to talk about a couple of major projects that have been happening across Loddon over the past few months. Now, I'm joined by Bruce Arthur. Welcome, Bruce. Bruce is in charge of our major projects across Loddon, and we're standing on the top of the Boort levee bank. Bruce, can you tell us a little bit about this levee bank here in Boort, and then we'll touch on the levee bank in Pyramid Hill as well. But I think we'll start here and a little bit of background and how this project's been progressing over the past few months.
Right. Thank you. Yeah, so the levee bank project's been made up in 4 or 5 different components. So over here, 4,000 cubic metres of material went into that part. Then we come across here to this section here, which is basically the rebuild of the private channel through here. Another 3,000 or 4,000 cubic metres of material and another 500 metres of levee through there. Then we go on to levee bank 4, which you can see along the fence line over here, approximately 500 or 600 metres in length, another 4,000 or 5,000 cubic metres of material. And then we've got levee bank 5 coming on, which is from the olive groves up to the far channel up the other end.
Excellent. So it's a stage project. Bruce, this levee bank here in Boort has been proposed since the 2011 floods. There's been some challenges over that time. We're now in 2025. Can you give us a bit of background on some of the challenges you've faced with this particular bank and how you've got it to this stage?
Yeah, great. Good question too, because there's a lot of history behind this. As you said, back in 2011, it was established then that there was a need for protection for the town. I think 2017, there was some funding opportunities. The in-house engineers sort of worked, on some ideas around these locations where we are now. They established that there was a real choke point down in this corner. And then that resulted in purchasing some land off this private landowner through here. So again, that was a challenge. That took a lot of time to sort of negotiate and work through that. That's then opened up that section of the floodway, if we want to call it that, to allow that water to sort of get away and reduce the strain, back here. So that was, started back when that funding, the negotiation around the land, and then we had the extra challenges around here. We've got a section of land which is heritage listed, Chinese market gardens, but it's also on Crown land. So we had the issues around lure negotiations that had to take place, which again was quite complicated because of all the stakeholders that were involved. And then we sort of progressed over to this side where we've had a different sort of issue in regards to the lure, which that negotiation's been undertaken. And then obviously we had challenges around something like a private channel running through this section here. Then we've got our local town drain here, just to add to the complexities over time. So all that's taken a lot of engineering, by the guys in there over time.
No doubt the Boort community are very pleased to be at this stage here now. Still a few steps to take on this levee bank, Bruce, but Pyramid Hill's now being completed. That was another area that we identified that the need for a flood bank to protect the town. You just inform us on how that project's gone and what.
And Pyramid Hill was really interesting. They both had totally different challenges. So Pyramid Hill was approximately 10 kilometres of levees, basically surrounding the whole town. Here we've got 1.5 to 2 k's of levees. The biggest challenge with any of this sort of levee bank construction has been getting the material. All the levees in Pyramid Hill are built on private land, which we were lucky enough to have the full cooperation of all the landowners throughout that process. So we've created easements, the levees are within those easements, and the actual landowners and farmers have been worked really well with the local contractor in Pyramid Hill in giving us access to material, which was a massive challenge for something like Pyramid Hill. So yeah.
Talking about local contractors, both projects were built by locals with local machines and their expertise. Can you just touch a bit on how that come about and that procurement sort of structure of using local contractors to build these projects?
Yeah, look, and another really good question. So there's a fair bit of history in these levees where they were built originally, when the floods were happening to prevent, the ingress of water and to protect the properties up here. There was a local contractor here, excavators, trucks, Stuart Coots, who performed that work, 10, 15 years ago. And then again in sort of that 2022, 21 sort of one. Again, the challenges here around material, the material here had to be imported from off-site. It had to be tested to make sure we weren't bringing in impurities around the water. And he was, absolutely vital in accessing that material and work. The understanding of the site, the access, and those challenges, and his relationship with, the local landholders, again, was really important in working through that. And very similar in Pyramid Hill, where Drew Chislett obviously was the guy that facilitated a lot of those conversations with the farmers around access to material, and their knowledge was just so important for us, local knowledge. I don't know that they were just extremely important. It's successful so far. So.
No, that's great, Bruce. Thank you for your time today. There's two major projects that have been completed here to protect both the towns of Boort and Pyramid Hill in the past 12 months. A lot of progression being made here in Boort. We look forward to seeing the completion of this project and to secure that there's some level of safety for the towns for future floods. Thanks again, Bruce. Keep tuned for more commentary around the progression of this particular project. There'll be media releases, and no doubt Council will have a lot more to say on this in the future.